Yeah. वासुदेवेन्द्र योगेन्द्रं नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुं मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधोऽभिधीयते नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनं नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्मा नमामि.
We are seeing the portion where Atma with avidya upadhi is called Jiva. So, Jiva is a name given to every living being in conjunction with avidya as the cause, which makes one identify with the limited body and senses, and such a available identity in conjunction with the body and senses. That limited sense of identity is Jiva. Thula Sharira Abhimani, the one who is in identification. Brahma Pratibhimbam is a pratibimb of Brahman. Reflected consciousness is his experience. Understanding that I am aware, but that awareness has a limited scope, is limited by the upadhis born from avidya, means cause being avidya, the upadhi of the sharira and the sukshma sharira, so just calls itself as limited I. Such a jiva by default has the recognition that Ishvara is separate from me. Maya upadhi san atma jiva, Maya upadhi san Ishvara iti uchyate, and Ishvara is Brahman with Maya upadhi, is called Ishvara. The difference, Bheda Buddhi, which is a jiva's experiential life. Teaching of Vedanta starts with where we are. What are we experiencing now? What we are experiencing now is under examination. And that is the discussion to unfold that what I feel I am experiencing, is it the truth or not? So my experience of duality, of plurality, is Bheda Buddhi, is rested on division. I experience only division. The minute I have woken up, I only experience division. In my dream, I experience division. And in sleep, I experience nothing. I say I have had a blackout. These are my jiva's experience. Every jiva has this experience. So there is no individual there who is having one experience and another individual has another experience. All jivas experiences experiencing Bheda. This Bheda is now to be resolved to say, is this true? Because unresolved, as long as the Bheda remains, Jiva is in constant search for fullness. He can't end his struggles. He will want more happiness, he will want more things, he will want a completeness. He wants a completeness. He's looking for satiation. He's looking for a place where there is complete rest. He's looking for an end to struggles. This will not end till this Bheda Buddhi exists in Jiva. To which they said this indicative of Jiva Ishvara Bheda is Jagat Jiva Bheda also. So this Bheda needs to be resolved, and to resolve this, he said, the opposition, the counter positing it is said just as a thought of reflection that it is probably not even possible, and that is where all Dvaita schools of philosophy, whatever they be in creation, they all are believers of this Nanu. Whoever will have this question is Advaita understanding. They're affirming the Dvaita understanding because from Dvaita standpoint, Ishvara is Sarvagna, Sarvavid, Sarvashakti, etc. You call that Ishvara with any name, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, you call them any form of God. But Ishvara, idea of Ishvara means Sagunatvam, and that Sagunatvam means it is Maya Upadhi, and Maya Upadhi functioning at its maximal gunas. This Ishvara, how is it possible the one which is Sarvagnya, with having no limited sense of I, be the same as this Alpagnyaha, the Jiva, who sees himself as a small entity? I'm small, I'm restricted. So the question is asked is, through Mahavakya, which is the base of Vedantic conclusive study, whoever has, since eternity, whoever has grasped the Mahavakya is enlightened, because there is nothing in between. It's direct knowledge. Tattvamasi is one of the Mahavakyas. A Mahavakya is Mahavakya, Mahan Vakya, the great statement, the huge statement. What is the huge statement? The great statement, and it's not one statement. Throughout Vedic literature, wherever there is a correlation drawn between Ekatvam of Ishvara and Jiva, which means wherever there is the sense of duality resolved through knowledge, that statement becomes Mahavakya. So Tattvamasi is one of the statements spoken to the Jiva from the Jiva's standpoint, and it comes very often frequently used in one particular chapter of Chandogya Upanishad. Tattvamasi is one of the Mahavakyas from Chandogya Upanishad. There are other Mahavakyas like Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi is also one of the Vakyas from the Jiva standpoint. Prajnana Ghanam. This Prajnanam is Brahman. This kind of statement. So you have Mahavakyas as a conclusive portion through a certain Vedantic study, drawn like we have seen very systematically, and conclusion is therefore there is no bhed, idea being that. So he says when these are so distinct in characteristics, Jiva and Ishvara, how does a Mahavakya just simply resolve them? Just having said Tattvamasi doesn't dissolve away the difference. Ishvara remains Sarvagnya and Sarvashakti Man, and I remain Alpagnya and Alpashakti Man, etc. So there is a Viruddha Dharma seen from Ishvara and Jiva's standpoint. Now starts the resolution of this doubt. Iti chet na. If one thinks like this, then that is not true, because there are new words here now which need a little clarification. Thula Sukshma Sharira Abhimani is the Tvam Pada Vachartha. Vachartha. The meaning, artha, of Vachya, what is said. So meaning of a statement said. Which statement? Tvam Pada. So the meaning of Tvam Pada is indicated in Sthula Sukshma Sharira, the one who's owning it up, that Jiva. Upadhi Vinirmuktam Samadhi Dashasampannam Shuddham Chaitanyam Tvam Pada Lakshyartha. Tvam Pada Lakshyartha is one indicating of free of the upadhi of sthula and sukshma. I'll explain what is first Vachartha and Lakshyartha. What is Vachartha? Any statement, any sentence which has a direct meaning. A direct meaning is given through the statement made. That's called Vachartha. Like for example, you say he is devoted. He is devoted means it's a indicating of someone who is a very devoted person. He is strong. He is strong means the person is a very strong person. Indicative, it's not hiding a meaning. It is directly giving the meaning. Lakshyartha are those statements which are indirect or implied meaning. So instead of saying he is devoted, I say a statement, he is a Hanuman. So when you say he is a Hanuman or he is a lion, now you're not mentioning to a person who has got an upadhi of a lion, but you are equating the quality of a lion, upadhi present in the lion as strength, quality of the lion, what makes lion a lion is a strength, and you are equating this person to saying he is very strong. But instead of saying he is very strong, you just say he is a lion. Such a statement which are not directly, if you take a literal meaning, Vachartha actually also means literally meaning. You take it directly, you take a literal meaning of it, as is. What is said as is. Now if you take he is a lion as a Vachartha statement, what will happen? Supposing you're two friends talking about a third person and you are telling one friend that person is a lion. What is this person actually meaning? If he takes it in the literal sense, he's going to think this person's friend is a lion, if you take a literal meaning. And many of our communication problems arise, even in life. Basic communication gaps happen because so many times a person is actually talking Lakshyartha, talking in kind of, express. In fact, subtler the things are, more difficult they are to give a Vachartha. But if the other person is not equally moving to accept the Vachartha, Lakshyartha, and they stick to Vachartha, there will be confusion in communication. Because you are saying something which implies something, but they are taking it to mean a literal sense of it. So, Vachartha is a direct meaning. Now take the Mahavakya Tat Tvam Asi. If you take a direct meaning Tat Tvam Asi, what does this mean? It means you and Ishwar are same. Tat Pada Vachyartha and Tvam Pada Vachyartha. Tvam Pada Vachyartha means you. Tat Pada Vachyartha means Ishwara. So in the literal sense, if someone takes, what will happen? There will be confusion because Ishvara from Ishvara's standpoint and Jiva from Jiva's standpoint is not said that they are same. Upadhi Bheda is recognized. Ishvara with Upadhi Bheda is Ishvara. There is nothing deniable about the fact that Ishwar is Ishwar, but it is Upadhi Bheda, keeping Upadhi intact. The difference of Upadhi is there. So Vachyartha and If you take Lakshyartha, what is the implied meaning of Tvam-pada? Then Tvam-pada and Tat-pada implied meanings. Tvam-pada means what? Jiva. And Jiva means what? The one who is a Sthula Sukshma Sharira Abhimani, that Atma is called Jiva. So in the Tvam-pada, you have two components. You have the component of Atma and you have the component of Anatma, which is all the Shariras. So Jiva is standing as if to represent one part of it is Atma, also identified with the Sthula Sukshma Sharira, therefore identified with Anatma also. Anatma is all Mithya. That means Jiva is identified with Mithya. But if you take them as just the literal meaning you, then the hearer understands you only as the one who's identified with Sthula Sukshma Sharira. My idea of me, my idea of I is only my qualities of the body and my thoughts. The kind of characteristics that I think I represent or I am. That is in my cognition of I. My reference point of I is not Chaitanyam. So when I'm using all my understanding of I, if my reference point is mentioning Chaitanyam in my reference point of understanding, that's important. In my understanding, when I use I, what am I referring to? Just this Sharira, maximum personality. This is all that my I actually contains. The awareness part, self-awareness part, the cognition, self-cognition part, that it is all consciousness is not in my reference of I. That I'm a conscious being, even when I say I am a conscious being, what is I referring to? Just this individual. I am a conscious, they are contradictory statements, viruddha. I am a conscious being. I refers to this individual, but conscious is not this individual. The quality of conscious being is awareness, and awareness is Sthula Sukshma Sharira Karana Vyatiriktaha, was Sakshi of Sthula Sukshma Karana. That is Atma. So Lakshyartha is the indirect or the implied meaning. Now Tat-pada also has a Lakshyartha. And what is the Lakshyartha of Tat-pada? That Maya Upadhi son, Brahman with Maya Upadhi is Ishvara. So Lakshyartha, when you use the word Ishvara, implies Brahman. Lakshyartha of the word Tvam is Atma. Lakshyartha of the word Tat is Brahman. Atman and Brahman are they different? They are just used only from a microcosmic and a totality point of view. The words are only used with reference to the standpoint of micro, individual, this Sthula Sukshma Sharira placement, but they are not different in characteristics. Brahman expressed here as consciousness, awareness, Atman, is Atman, and identified with the Shariras is called Jiva. This Jiva is not said as common to Ishvara. So Jiva Ishvara Bheda will remain if you see it from the standpoint of Upadhi. And now if you look at yeah.
Sorry to disturb you. Could you just repeat that? You said the Lakshyartha of Brahman is Ishvara and the Lakshyartha of Jiva is?
Lakshyartha of Ishvara is Brahman.
Yeah.
And Lakshyartha of Jiva is Atman, which is Brahman.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So, if you come to this, he says, look at the text. Sthula Sukshma Sharira Abhimani Tvam pada Vachartha. So the literal meaning of Tvam, as said, if I call you as you, the literal meaning of that you, Vachartha, is the one who is referring to this body and this Antakaranam, Sthula Sukshma Sharira, that Jiva. Upadhi Vinirmuktam. But when you free the Upadhi, Sakshi, if you come to the point of Sakshi, Samadhi Dasha Sampannam. Samadhi Dasha means absolute freedom from a place where there is only, place is not in the literal sense, means a state in which there is pure knowledge. What is that Samadhi Dasha? Endowed with Samadhi, Dasha means endowed with Samadhi state, Shuddham Chaitanyam. Tvam Pada Lakshyartham. So Tvam Pada Lakshya is pointing to Shuddha Chaitanya. Tvam Pada Vachartham is referring to the individual. So you, when Shastra says Tvam Tat Asi, question is, Shastra is using it as Vachartha or Lakshyartha? If Shastra has to use it as Vachartha, then it ceases to be knowledge. Because that we already know. What is it teaching us? What we already know. And if we already know is right, then you should be free already. So Vachartha cannot be the meaning of the word Tat when Shastra says, Tat or Tvam, when Shastra says Tvam Tat Asi. It's a statement. In this statement, are you using the statement directly or indirectly? Shastra has said what? In fact, Shastra has said, other than Atma, everything is Mithya. So all that you think you are has already fallen into the category of Mithya and Anatma. So Shastra cannot use that to point, that is who you are. That is an available knowledge already. Bheda Buddhi is my already available knowledge. And from the standpoint of Bheda Buddhi, if Shastra is to draw an equation, it will be illogical. It will amount to misleading. It will amount to making a person crazy. It ceases to be a valid knowledge. Because Ishwar and I, keeping our Bhedas of Upadhi, cannot be the same. It's like saying a bangle and a ring is same. From which artha is a bangle and a ring same? From which?
Because
With
they're both
reference to, exactly. So if you say that, if somebody says bangle and ring is same, now you will laugh if you take it in the literal sense. And you will say pagal hai insan, because how can it be the same? एक उंगली में चढ़ती है, एक पूरे हाथ में चढ़ती है. There is a big difference. But there is something same, they are both round. But what, they're identical if you have to say, where the bhed has to dissolve. When the bhed of bangle and ring has to dissolve, that bhed can only dissolve if you look at the common thing between the two. Upadhi vinirmuktaha, the name and form that bangle have and the ring has, vinirmuktaha, if you discard it away. If you discard the name and form, free the material from the name and form, vinirmuktaha, upadhi ka tyag kar do. Give up the upadhi, associated upadhi, because it is, you cannot separate the ring from the gold. Can you ever separate them actually? But where do you separate them? In vichar. The minute you give up the upadhi hanging on, I lost my ring, I lost my ring, I lost my... I just read a very funny hilarious. It was just a joke, but this gold reminded me of that. My thought went to that. There is a floating message in the groups, probably. Uh, whether it is bangle or medal, women are expected to bring home gold. Padha? हाँ. Whether it is bangle or ornaments or medal, women are expected to bring home gold. Now, the minute you bring the vision of gold, why is see, when you go to buy it, you buy gold. When you go to buy gold, what are you looking at? Name and form, specific. ये अच्छा लगा, ये नहीं अच्छा लगा. I wanted a bangle, so I'll go for a bangle, or etc. But when you lose it, what happens to your mind? You're
That
not
value is
trying.
gold.
Exactly. You are losing you are suffering because in your understanding, the loss is not of a ring, but the loss is of the gold. Because if it was just a ring, it is a piece of metal that is lost. Round circular metal with a certain shining capacity, certain weight it represents. It may have a little design here and there. Gum gaya. But look at the instant replacement, if you can pick that up. It's not a ring loss that I am suffering. When it's lost, I am already in the anxiety, or in whatever words the right may be. I'm already palpitating because instantly the name and form has gone and gold has got replaced. I've lost gold. Now, if you ever have your children, if they lose one of their, as children, we've all lost something or the other while playing. Kabhi earring kho di humne, kabhi kuch kho diya, and then our parents are all kahan khoya. So you find this. If they know that they had put artificial thing and you'd lost an artificial earring, hardly anything. But the minute you know that you lost something real, now the desperation to find it. The idea in this example is, see how quickly we switch over. And it's very subtle if you can pick up the point. How quickly we switch over from the name and form to the material. It's possible. And it's all in the mind. When I've gone to buy an ornament, I know everything there is a gold shop. There's nothing else but gold. I went to Tribhuvan Das. Everything there is gold. I'm not now in wonderment whether ye sahi hai ki wo sahi hai, but I went there with an idea of specific name and form. My details is what I'm looking at. Upadhi is what I'm looking at. But when I lose it, I've also suddenly become valued. My upadhi vinirmuktaha, I'm looking at it from its material cause. I'm looking at it what it was worth. So what is jiva associated with upadhi? What is he worth? What is a jiva associated with upadhi in this example, limited example? What is the worth? It's just a name and form. Is a bangle, is a ring. Has a purpose for a little while, but vinirmuktaha, what is jiva? Upadhi vinirmuktaha. What is jiva? Is priceless. Why do you when someone very close, and especially when they have disease or terminal or something, the young they are, the more suffering there is for close ones. Because now you are not looking at the name and form. It no longer is important that the person's features, what they are, nothing. The person you're going to lose. The value of life is suddenly important. But when you know, supposing, what was that movie that came? Something to do with stars. A lot of such stories are floating always.
Fault in Your Stars.
Sorry?
Fault in Your
Fault in the
Stars?
star. Yeah. Fault in your stars. Fault in your, something like that. You know, something where suddenly the upadhi really important? For those who have seen it, when you know your time is so limited on the planet, supposing your life is limited, now does it matter at that point that I have a little टूटी हुई उंगली, a little long or short nose or a crooked nose, or does it even matter?
Perspective.
Perspective. You can call it perspective. Yes, it's a correct perspective. But when your perspective is changed to identify the truth and not just another relative view, that makes the difference completely. So he says, how is samsara going to end? That's the question. As long as the bhed buddhi is there, samsara na nivartate. My idea of me becoming a sufferer here and now and my idea of pursuing happiness forever in life is not ending. कभी इस तरीके से कभी उस तरीके से. In fact, fortunately or unfortunately for jivas, our memories have very short life. So we do not see the continuity of our struggles for happiness. We don't recognize we are in continuous search for harmony and peace. Throughout life, and fortunately, as we think with the previous incident, we forget everything. So we, with the same hope, we start again in a new journey, new life, new phase. Per se, hoping that I will get it now. So somehow, because this is continued, this doesn't end, is a very big revelation to a thinking person. And if it has to end, then the Bheda Buddhi has to end. And Bheda Buddhi, if I have to take it in the literal sense, it's madness. Bangle and ring can never match. Their sizes will remain same. Ring is a limited, smaller entity than bangle is. Their weights are different. You cannot equate them. They are two different things. They are not equatable. But if you are able to manage to see the common thing that exists, the thing which is universal between them, what connects them, if that gets picked up, then upadhi difference is lost. And this is seen in life also in a relative way. It's not unusual. You know, when do communities come together, really speaking? Even in a family, you notice a lot of families which will otherwise fight. But if there is some difficulty that comes in the family, suddenly what happens? The whole family comes together. Something brings them together so tight. They'll stand with each other come what may. Communities stand with each other come what may. Nations stand by each other. Citizens of a nation stand by each other come what may. What brings you together? What dissolves the differences?
Adversity.
Adversity. What dissolves the adversity? Adversity. Yes, the adversity brings the commonness to you. But that adversity is actually making you dissolve the differences. Otherwise, I am this and you are this. As long as there's no adversity, we are fine with our in fact, we go on nitpicking our differences. Now, Tatpada and Thampada, both of them, Vachartha is not the meaning. Lakshyartha is the meaning. And the minute a person shifts the vision to the Lakshyartha, then which is only Shuddha Chaitanyam in both cases. Atman is Shuddha Chaitanyam, Brahman is Shuddha Chaitanyam. In both the cases it is so. Then automatically the resolution, the division is lost. Evam sarvagnatvadi vishishta ishvaraha tat pada vachyartaha. The specific meaning of Tatpada is Ishvara with Maya Upadhi. Upadhi Shunyam. Shuddha Chaitanyam, Tat Pada Lakshyartha. So even Shuddha Chaitanyam without Upadhi, the Tat Pada is Shuddha Chaitanyam. Evam, in this manner, Jiva Ishvara Yoho, Jiva and Ishvara, Chaitanya Rupena Abhede. There is a non-difference from the standpoint of Chaitanya. Badhaka Abhavaha. That notion is destroyed of difference from the standpoint of removal of the upadhi. If you remove the upadhi, that standpoint is lost because both then are nothing but Shuddha Chaitanya. There is a little more which maybe next class, that is the same Mahavakya. This text is only pointing at the Vachartha, Lakshyartha in a simple way to come to the Mahavakya conclusion. We'll probably see something more next week, maybe. Evam, in this manner, the text continues, Vedanta Vakyehi. Statements of Vedanta, which are Mahavakya conclusive, Sadguru Rupena, Sadguru Rupa Upadeshena, in the form of a teaching which comes from the text and the learned people, Cha Sarveshu Api. All that is learned, Bhuteshu Yesham, I remember I have to put the translations, I will next week hopefully. Bhuteshu Yesham Brahma Vidya Brahma Buddhihi Utpanna. This what is common in all the bhutas, all living beings, all jivas, with the help of Vedanta Vakya and proper Adhyanam learned from proper methodology, Sadguru Rupena Upadeshena, Brahma Buddhihi Utpanna. There is a Brahma Buddhi which gets formed. Brahma Buddhi means knowledge of Brahman. There is now Brahman Vritti, at least the knowledge first. When that is formed, in whom it is formed, te jivana muktaha iti arthaha. They become jivan muktas. So Brahma Buddhi. Here, now what does it mean? I'm going to conclude this here. When I use the word I, in my reference understanding, I is what?
Jeev.
So if it is Jeev, I am not Muktaha. But when I have understood, while I'm still contacting if in my buddhi I have got through Adhyanam, and that's why Vedanta Shastra becomes Adhyanam, study, understanding. It's the development of a knowledge. It's an expansion of knowledge, a buddhi. Your buddhi grows. What I believe today as an individual entity, through knowledge, my buddhi has changed. My knowledge has changed. I am looking at the world now different. I'm looking at God different. I'm looking at myself different. Where there is a buddhi establishment, established buddhi, means understanding, cognition. Just as I said, when I have lost the bangle or the ring, what is the buddhi I have at that point? Gold. At that point, suddenly my buddhi of Nama Rupa disappeared out of the window. I don't care it was ring or gold. And if supposing I cared about it was an ancestral handout, what has happened now to the same thing? The value has compounded completely. It no longer even matters whether it was of no weight. It doesn't even matter if it was very cheap. That buddhi disappeared. If you can pick that point up, it's replaced with another buddhi. While you may still use it as ring and bangle, but the vision has changed. The one whose vision has changed is the Jivan Mukta. He's freed from samsara now. That portion will come later, but we will continue with this Mahavakya portion in the next week class to begin with, because it is the crux of Vedanta, and it still needs a little more clarity and reinforcement from another standpoint. So we'll repeat this again in the next class.
ॐ सर्वेषां स्वास्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथ्वी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं शोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः